Welcome to Worcester Public Library's virtual cooking class, Veggie Burgers and Veggie Sausages with Colin McCullough. Since Colin went vegan in 1995, he has been finding new ways to make healthy eating convenient and delicious, especially while raising two boys with healthy appetites. Colin teaches private and public cooking classes throughout New England, sharing his experience and recipes with people who want to incorporate more whole food, plant-based meals for health, compassion, and the environment. He also published the Healthy Vegan Cookbook last year, and a new one, Smoothies That Taste Like Girl Scout Cookies, will be coming soon. You can learn more about Colin on his website and Facebook page, which I'll post in the chat. These classes, along with our monthly nutrition classes, are funded with federal funds from the National Library of Medicine and National Institutes of Health through the University of Massachusetts in Worcester. So thank you, Colin.
All right, thank you. Yeah. I've been teaching cooking classes for the Worcester Public Library for, boy, it must be about 3 years now that we've been doing that together. You know, in a different format here. You know, usually I have the whole session room all, you know, outfitted, and I get to be up to pass out samples of all the food that I make to everybody. And you know, that's unfortunately, that for me, that's kind of the biggest downside of you know, having to do this online, not being able to do this in person, because, you know, I always love to be able to hand out the samples and see, you know, everybody's reactions to it. So welcome to my kitchen. I don't have a big fancy kitchen or anything like that. You know, some of the people I have seen doing Zoom classes, they have these beautiful fancy kitchens, and this is it. You know, I live in an apartment, and so, you know, where you usually see me in the class, then it's my kitchen. So as you said, Jen, in the introduction, I have been I'm vegan. I've been vegan for about 25 years now. I have two boys who are 18 and 21. And so, you know, really a large part of how I've come about and my process has been, you know, trying to make healthy food in a way that my kids will eat it. So, you know, it's one thing for me to, you know, sit down with a plate of veggies and, you know, healthy stuff. But, you know, as far as my kids go, especially when they were younger, you know, trying to get them to eat healthy food, you know, that was like sort of an extra challenge. So, you know, when I developed different recipes, you know, that they would ask for seconds, and I'd say, all right, it's great. All right. You know, hold on to those. And I started teaching classes, and as I was teaching classes and people are asking, you know, do you have a cookbook? So I wrote the Healthy Vegan Cookbook, and this came out last year. It's available on Amazon. Usually in the live classes, I sell them there, but I guess it's all online right now. And so the 3 recipes that we'll be doing today, as well as most of the recipes from the cooking classes that I do, are all in the cookbook. So the focus of the class today is going to be, you know, making your own veggie burgers, and also some veggie sausages as well. I'll show you how to do that. So I come at it, you know, obviously I'm vegan, but I come at it from sort of the whole foods, unprocessed standpoint. So, you know, I don't know how to make something like Impossible Burgers. I have no idea what they put in that, you know, or like Beyond Burgers or something like that. You know, if I go to a restaurant, I'll have that. I'm happy to have that. But, you know, most of the time it's me cooking my food at home. And so, you know, for most of the time, the food that I'm eating is, you know, trying to be as unprocessed as possible using whole food, healthy ingredients. So, you know, in the veggie burgers, I have a chapter on veggie burgers, and also like sausages and, you know, like veggie meatballs and things like that. So we're going to go over, you know, a number of those things today. You know, one thing I do want to point out with the different veggie burger recipes that I have in the cookbook and what we'll be doing today, really one of the key things in making your own veggie burgers is to make sure that the ingredients that you put in are cooked ahead of time. So if you use raw ingredients, you know, you can put veggie burgers, you know, in the oven and cook them that way. In the air fryer, you can put them on the grill. But the main thing is you want to make sure that the ingredients are cooked. so that, you know, when it's all formed and everything, and you're, you know, putting it in the oven or, you know, on the grill, whatever you want to do, that all of those ingredients are already cooked. So, you know, there's no chance that when you bite down into it, you're going to get like a piece of raw garlic or something like that. Or like, you know, the veggies, or if you don't cook the veggies ahead of time, like this first recipe, Indian masala burgers that we're going to do, uses green peppers and carrots and corn. All of those vegetables, they really hold on to quite a bit of moisture. There's a lot of water in there. And if you don't cook it ahead of time, then it's going to release all that moisture when it's cooking into the burger. And then it's just going to be really mushy. So it's better to cook it all ahead of time. Also, I wanted to point out, I might have to put this down a little here. This is a food processor. This one is a Cuisinart. It's more of a commercial model, if you will. The reason that I like this is because it has a really large capacity. So it's a 14-cup capacity bowl here. If you're going to use a small food processor, you might have to sort of do this in batches, which really kind of makes it inconvenient. And, you know, one of the things I, you know, really press a lot in the book is, you know, making things as convenient as possible. So, you know, these burgers, we make these, you can form them into patties, you cook them, and then you can put them in the freezer. So, you know, most of the recipes, they make like a batch of like 6 or 8. And, you know, you could even make a double batch and then just put the rest in the freezer and then heat them up for later. So, you know, my kids, especially when they were a little younger, they go to karate. You know, I'd come home from work, I'd have like, you know, 10 minutes, 15 minutes to be able to make my kids something that was quick and easy and healthy at the same time. You know, veggie burgers were a perfect go-to for that. So, and, you know, rather than buying all the store-bought stuff all the time, like I said, you know, using whole food, healthy ingredients, I get to, you know, I have control over what goes into it. I know all the ingredients that went into it. So first recipe we're going to do today is the Indian masala burgers. So if you have ever had, like at Trader Joe's, they sell masala burgers. And so this is really kind of close to that. It's in the frozen section there. Those are really good, but they do use a lot of oil. I don't really use much oil in my cooking. So like I said, you know, trying to be as healthy as possible. So what I'll do is with these 3 recipes, I'll put everything together, you know, just because of, you know, not being at the library and having the time to be able to do everything like I would at the library. Then what I end up doing is mixing everything together. We walk through the steps on how to do everything, but I'm not going to cook them right here because you don't need, it doesn't matter for you if you don't get to try them at the end of the class. So, you know, just for the sake of expediency, I'll save the cooking for later, but trust me, they're really good.
We have a question from Sandra. She wants to know,
Oh, yeah.
have you ever used a Vitamix rather than a food processor to prepare the ingredients?
That is a great question. And it's great for sauces and smoothies and soups and, you know, liquid ingredients, but with a food processor is going to be better for something like this. It kind of comes out more of a paste, kind of a texture, which Vitamix is going to have a harder time with that. It's not really meant for something like this. So if you have a food processor, it'd be better to use that. Also, you can just, you know, mix it up by hand if you don't have the food processor. That will also work too, but food processor is going to be a lot better. All right. So first ingredients we're going to put in Yukon Gold potatoes that I've already cubed here. I've already cooked them and cut them up. So put those in the food processor here. I use about ½ a cup of oat flour, which if you just want to put regular oats into a like a Vitamix blender, food processor, whatever it is, you can just blend it to that as a powder, like a flour. So one of the great things with using oat flour here is that it's really going to absorb a lot of the moisture in the recipe. So this is definitely one that you don't want to skip that. But like I said, if you can't find oat flour in the store, it's really super easy to make it with a blender or something like that. I'll just turn it into powder. So, all right. And then there's a half a cup of cooked chickpeas. So I usually will use my own chickpeas that I've dried and cooked, but definitely canned chickpeas makes it very convenient as well. So I'm gonna put in the chickpeas here, and you don't have to mash those ahead of time. The food processor is gonna take care of that for you. And then, so there's a combination here. There's half a cup of yellow onion that I chopped and cooked all together here. There's half a cup of chopped carrots, half a cup of corn kernels. So usually I just use the frozen ones just for convenience. And then half of a green bell pepper. Cut everything up, put it in a saute pan and just saute it for a minute. You can water saute it if you don't want to use any oil in the recipe. So I've already cooked all that ahead of time here. So go ahead and put that in. Okay. All right. If you've ever had these like Trader Joe's masala burgers, you know that in the end it still has little pieces of the vegetables in it, so you can see still that there's colors in it. You don't process it to the point that it's just completely homogenized and just one single color. All right, we're gonna put in 2 cloves of garlic and 1-inch thumb of ginger, but I have ginger garlic paste because I do a lot of Indian cooking, so it's the same idea, just to cut 2 tablespoons of ginger garlic paste. So. And there's some dry ingredients here. I put in, there's 1 tablespoon of curry powder. In the cookbook, I have my own recipe for combining different spices to make my own curry powder. It's really what I prefer, but you can use the store-bought stuff if you have that. So there's a half a teaspoon of sea salt in here, and there's also a 1/4 teaspoon of black mustard seeds, which I already cooked those ahead of time as well. It really kind of helps to bring the taste out of that. So I'll put that in. There we go. And also we have about a half a cup of cilantro, fresh cilantro as well. So I'll go ahead and put that in. I'm gonna apologize to my wife, who I think is watching, because she doesn't really like cilantro that much, but maybe if she's not watching this part, I can just kind of sneak it in because it just makes it taste so much better. So. And this is one where you're gonna have to run it for a minute and then stop it and kind of mix things together, then keep running it. So do that. I'm sorry, it's kind of boring to we sit here and use a food processor, but I just want to show you like the consistency, the point that you get to, so that it doesn't make it too homogeneous looking. Also, one of the reasons that I make the burger mix and then I'm not going to actually for this class is it's important once it's all mixed together to let it rest, because that oat flour is going to absorb the mixture that's being released by the vegetables in here. You want to give it about, I'd say 15 minutes or so, just as a mixture before you start to form it into patties and make veggie burgers out of it. It's going to be so much easier to use once all of the oat flour has absorbed the liquid there. So. And also you can use more oat flour if you wanted to try and make it a little bit more firm. If you want a firmer texture for it, it's coming out pretty soft, so I might add some more oat flour later on. All right, so it's funny. It just really varies quite a bit, you know, from one batch to the next of what the consistency is going to be. This is really pretty thin, so I'm going to want to add more flour to it. You can see it's kind of sticky here, but I'm going to put that into a bowl and put it over to the side so that we can go ahead and get ready for the next one. Jen, does anybody have any questions or comments or anything at this point?
No, not at this time.
Okay. All right. So also, like I said, you know, at this point it's kind of liquidy, but if you wait 15 minutes, just kind of let it rest for a little bit, then it does kind of firm up some. So there's the paste base for it. So I put that into a bowl. And also you can still see there's the, let me hold it up in a second here. You can still see the pieces of the green of the bell pepper in it, and the carrots, the orange of the carrots. So you haven't processed it to the point that it's just like a tan, you know, you don't want it like that. Stuff. One nice thing about doing it in my kitchen is that I can go ahead and clean everything as I go. So, you know, when I'm cooking at the library, then unfortunately you have to, you know, I have to have people run it to the sinks and clean everything. So I just kind of put this in the bowl. You can see, you know, that there's still distinctive colors there. Like I said, you know, I'll probably, after the class is done, I'll probably put this into a mixing bowl, add some more oat flour to it, just to kind of thicken it up some. What I find with the veggie burgers, with the recipes in the book, is one thing that makes a huge difference is what you put on it as a condiment. So for something like this, you know, the burger itself has great flavor to it, but you know, what I would usually add to this is I have some vegan mayonnaise. I have the recipe in the cookbook how to do that without oil. Or if you just have the store-bought mayonnaise, the vegan mayonnaise, then I'll add some of the curry powder to that and just kind of mix it up and, you know, make like a curry aioli for the top. And I usually put that in like a burger thin. And so I have the burger that way. And also one thing I want to point out as well for these recipes is I do use an air fryer a lot. You can certainly bake these in the oven. What I like to do is tear off a piece of the parchment paper, a square, and put the veggie burger on that. And then put that on a pan. That makes it really easier to flip over. Also, sorry, I'm like rushing ahead of myself here. When I have the burger mix ready to go, and it's thicker, like I said, thicker than that. When you're able to handle it and like sort of form it into a patty shape, when it's firmed up enough to be able to do that, what I like to do is I could use some cornmeal. And put that in a bowl, or I would use some chickpea flour in this case. Either one, you can use either one. Put it in a bowl, like put it in the bottom of a bowl here, and then form a patty, and then put the patty into the flour so that you get sort of a coating on each side. That's going to make it so that it's not sticky, you know, when you put it on a piece of parchment paper and you're able to flip it over. Or like if you're going to put it in a pan and bake it, you can do that.
We have a couple of questions. So They want to know, can you suggest alternatives to a food processor? This person has an immersion blender, or can you just really stir it and mash it a lot?
Yep, absolutely, can do that.
Okay.
If you have a potato masher, then that'll do much of what we're doing here with the food processor.
Okay. And somebody wants to know, any substitute for cilantro?
Somebody not a fan of cilantro?
I hear it's genetic.
Is that my wife asking that question?
Kathleen?
No. Okay. Let's see. Honestly, I don't know. I think parsley, I suppose, could work. It's sort of along the same lines. I wouldn't say that it tastes exactly the same or anything, but you could try using parsley. That has kind of a savory kind of taste to it as well.
Okay, and then Sandra wants to know, if you are making your own oat flour, is there a ratio of oats you use? Example, do you get a 1/3 cup of oats flour and use X amount of oats?
I would just, like for this recipe, calls for a 1/2 cup of oat flour, and so I would just use 1/2 cup of rolled oats and then put those in the blender, and that's going to come out to about 1/2 cup of the powdered of the flour.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, so let me move the ingredients for this out of the way. Set that for now. I have the next tray here. We're going to be making Cuban black bean burgers. So the 3 things that we're doing for this class, in the vegan vegetarian world, black bean burgers are a little bit more common than masala burgers. I really love the masala burgers because you add the curry powder in it, and the mustard seeds in it really kind of gives it a nice Indian flavor, which I really like. But Cuban black bean burgers, this is sort of a more common veggie burger. If you you can get Beyond Burger and Impossible Burger and things like that at most restaurants, but sometimes you can get a veggie burger that's made out of, if you will, like real ingredients and stuff that's not so processed. So black bean burgers are a little bit more common, I guess, and the more healthy vegetarian burgers. So we're going to be adding a number of different spices to make it, give it a nice smoky flavor as well. But why don't we get started with this one here. And I believe everybody who signed up for the class, you all got a link with the recipes in it. So hopefully you don't need to go through and write everything down as I'm saying it all, but
yes, they are. It is at the top of the chat, and I will share it again at the end too.
Great. Okay, just close that out. All right. So first recipe ingredient for the Cuban black bean burgers is black beans. So again, it's 2 cups of black beans, which is roughly 1 can of black beans if you wanted to use canned. Is that my kitchen? That is my kitchen. And my cat has decided to join us, but he's off camera. All right. And so there's 1 cup of short grain brown rice, which I made this ahead of time. And the brown rice, it's a short grain brown rice is a lot stickier, as it's more of a glutinous rice than the longer grain. So it helps to keep it all sticking together, and it helps to also, absorbs the liquid from making the burgers. All right, so there's that. And I put in, so there's a couple of ingredients that are going to be sauteed together. There's a 1/4 cup of red onion here, and we have half of a green pepper, and then we have 2 cloves of garlic as well. The best if you can saute those ahead of time. Again, that helps to release the moisture that's in the onion and in the green pepper, so that it's not making the mixture so soggy. All right. So I'm going to be adding into this one. So instead of using oat flour, you can also just use quick oats. So in this recipe, I am just using the quick oats. I'm not using it as a flour because I like the sort of extra texture that the quick oats give it. Kind of makes it chewier and has a texture. Whereas the masala burgers, it's really more of like a potato-based veggie burger. So you want it to be smoother, but in this case, I'm going to add, there's quick oats there. And let's see. I have 1 tablespoon of lime juice. So squeeze that already, put that in. Got a teaspoon of cumin, which I'll use. Grab the teaspoon. So it's cumin powder. I do a lot of my grocery shopping when I'm in Massachusetts. I go to Patel Brothers in Shrewsbury. It's an Indian supermarket. Love this place. Go there as much as I can. And let's see, we got a teaspoon of smoked paprika. So it's just, I usually, instead of using regular paprika, I like to use smoked paprika because it really gives it a nice extra boost of smoky flavor. So there's a teaspoon of that. And I'm going to put in about a teaspoon of sea salt here. And then last ingredient, we're going to put in a little bit of liquid smoke. So usually you find this in, usually supermarkets have this. I broke the bottle, so I had to put it into a little mason jar here. But usually you can find liquid smoke with condiments in the supermarket. So like, you know, in with the sauces and the mustard and ketchup and everything like that. So liquid smoke is basically water that's been infused with smoke. So it has a really nice smoky flavor. I'm going to put in about a half a teaspoon of that in here. So that, along with the smoked paprika, it's going to give it a really nice smoky flavor. So I'm going to go ahead and blend that all together here. So in the recipe, it does call for saving some of the black beans to the side and then adding it in at the end. Again, it just depends on the texture that you're going for. So, you know, if you want to have patties at the end that have whole black beans in them still, then I'd say, you know, save some of them to the side and then mix them in at the end. But it depends on what you want to do. Just like the other one, gotta stop and mix it a couple of times. Now, I know we're sort of coming to the end of cookout season, so put away their grills. But you know, I love veggie burgers any time of year. Like I said, they're, you know, really convenient and easy. Just take them out of the freezer and you can, you know, make a quick meal anytime. So like I said, I usually use my air fryer to heat them up to make them. I do a separate class on how to use an air fryer. I wouldn't say that it's like the most essential appliance. You know, you can do you can do a lot of what you would do with an air fryer. You can do it with a regular oven, but you know, it is a faster and more convenient and way to be able to heat up things and cook things. And you know, unlike the stove, it doesn't heat your whole house up. It's just contained in a small cooktop. So. Just like with the other recipe, I would recommend letting this rest for about 15 minutes, just so that the oats and the rice and everything can absorb all the moisture. So this is already a fair amount thicker than the other one. Like these ones, I wouldn't necessarily worry about waiting to let these rest. These are already firmed up, but you know, you can wait if you want. So that's basically like, you know, you form a patty shape, and then with this one, I would put it into the bowl with some cornmeal and just kind of dust it on either side, so that when you're putting it on a piece of parchment paper, it's not going to stick to the parchment paper. And so also, this is way too small. I would make one bigger than that.
We have a couple of questions in the chat.
Absolutely, yep.
You have a recommendation for an air fryer.
All right, so there are different kinds of air fryers, and they can get pretty expensive. What I have, I bought a couple so that I can bring them for classes, is the Power Air Fryer XL. I believe that's what they sell at BJ's, and let's see, kind of around the corner to pick up, but it's kind of like the egg-shaped countertop air fryer. So basically an air fryer is really a convection oven, you know, like a stovetop convection oven. It's got the heating element in it. It's got a fan that's really, you know, circulating the air through, and the part that you put the food on has holes underneath it, so you know the air can really go like all through, really heat things up. So Power Air Fryer XL is the one that I use. I know like Breville makes one that is a air fryer and is also a toaster oven, and you know, like a countertop one. I think I've seen it, but I've never used one that you can put on your Instant Pot, the electric pressure cooker. It's the air fryer lid that goes on that, and I've heard people say that works really well too, but I haven't used that before, so I can't say for myself.
A couple other questions. Other than beans, are there other good sources of protein on a vegan diet?
Oh yeah, yeah. I use nuts. I use protein. Definitely, that's a question that comes up a lot for people who are kind of new to vegan cooking and vegetarian cooking. But believe me, I do not lack for protein. Especially if you eat a kind of whole foods approach to vegan eating, you know, using a lot of whole grains and beans and nuts and everything like that, then protein is definitely not going to be a problem. You know, there's what was the joke I've heard that you know, you've never gone into an emergency room and seen somebody with a protein deficiency before, so that's not a problem.
And another one, can you use wheat flour instead of cornmeal for dusting the patties before cooking? And then white or whole wheat?
You could do that. Yeah, just making, well, obviously, but just making sure you cook it. You know, you don't want to consume flour raw. But yes, I suppose so. But like I said, I like to use either cornmeal or fine chickpea flour. The chickpea flour you can get either ordered online, or you can get it from an Indian supermarket as well. That's sort of a gluten-free alternative as well. All right. Are there any other questions?
Not at the moment.
Okay. All right, I'm just getting ready for my third recipe we're going to bring over here. So I'm going to kind of switch over to the vegan sausage making machine right here. Just this over. My cat made a mess. So, like I said, we're going to start making some veggie sausages. So this recipe is going to be Italian-style vegan sausages. If you have ever tried, this is similar to if you've ever tried tofurkey, which is they make vegan meat products. They make a vegan Italian-style sausage, and this is going to be pretty similar to that. So I'll kind of show you like the secret of how they do that. There are a few sort of processed ingredients that we can talk about, but still, you know, versus something like Impossible Burger, I think this is going to be a lot healthier still. This is something that you can, you know, put it on the grill. I like to cut these up and use them in like pasta sauce and some pasta. It's really great that way as well. So, all right. Okay, there. All right. So this one, we put together dry ingredients first. So my list of ingredients here. I'm going to put in 1/2 cup of nutritional yeast. And so this one is going to be one that would be harder to find in a regular supermarket. More and more people are telling me that they're able to find it in a supermarket, but I'll go to Whole Foods or Trader Joe's for this. Nutritional yeast is an inactive yeast, so it's not like, you know, like the baking yeast that you might buy. It's like I said, it's an inactive yeast, so people who have sensitivity to yeast products, then it's not like that. Basically, it gives things a nice cheesy flavor. So in vegan cooking, it's used a lot, like in sauces, to make sort of like cheesy kind of sauces. And also, they usually fortify it depending on which brand you get. So it also, you know, gives you the added benefits of some extra nutrition as well. So I'm going to use a 1/2 cup of the nutritional yeast. All right, and then I'm going to do 2 tablespoons of onion powder. See, in my kitchen, I usually don't measure things out. When I was putting the cookbook together, I had to actually measure things out and not just say, like, you know, small handful of this. So my publisher said you have to get everything measured out correctly. So
We appreciate measurements.
yeah.
We do have a couple of questions just to go back to the patties quickly.
Sure,
Can you
bet.
fry the patties on the stovetop in a bit of oil, or is baking better?
I prefer to bake them and not use the oil, but you definitely can pan fry them. What I use sometimes is like with the air fryer. Actually, if you want to hold on, I'll show you. I will use the olive oil cooking spray and just kind of spray it a little bit on the top and then flip it over when it's half done. So if I'm going to use oil for something like that, then I prefer the spray because it just tends to use less than if you're going to pan fry it. Especially something like the Indian masala burger. The oil kind of like sticks to the burger, and you just have to keep using more and more oil. If you do coat it with the cornmeal or the chickpea flour, it will help that at least.
All right, and then a tip from Sandra, you can also buy chickpea flour at Bahan's, and maybe I'm saying that wrong, and Hyder's Market, both on Pleasant Street.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, those are great places too, absolutely. All right, so we're going to put in about a tablespoon of fennel seeds. Were there other questions before I keep going here?
That is it for the moment.
Okay. So that looks like about a tablespoon, right? That's how I usually do my cooking. All right, so there's ground fennel seeds. I'm gonna put in some black ground pepper here. So about 2 tablespoons or teaspoons here. Black pepper. I put in 2 teaspoons of smoked paprika. So I'm basically just combining all of the dry ingredients first, just so that that all mixes together. And then I'm going to go ahead and add the rest of the ingredients to that. So 2 teaspoons of sea salt. So the brand that I prefer to use is Redmond Real Salt. This is from an ancient seabed out in the Midwest. So it is technically sea salt, but it's in the middle of the country. This actually has the highest concentration of minerals in any salt. And it's also the least processed. So a lot of the minerals aren't kind of bleached out and everything, like when they make table salt. So put in a teaspoon. So this would be something that you can get that at Whole Foods. It's easy to get it that way, or you can order it online. It's pretty easy to get it that way. So this is, let's see, this is $11 for the bag of salt, but you know, I tend to go through it a little bit faster because I'm teaching a lot of cooking classes, but normally it would take me months and months to go through something like this. So, you know, you pay a little bit more for something that is going to have a much better health option than just using regular table salt. So Redmond Real Salt. And no, I do not get paid by Redmond Real Salt. To say that, I wish that I did. But, and also going to put in a teaspoon of dried oregano as well. So there we go. So that just mixes together real fast, and then I'll add the rest of the ingredients. All right, now we're going to put in 6 cloves of garlic. So I got these already peeled. Put these in. And let's see, 2 tablespoons of tamari. So tamari is very similar to soy sauce, but soy sauce is not gluten-free. Tamari is fermented soybeans, whereas, tamari is fermented soybeans, whereas soy sauce tends to be a mixture of soy and wheat and different grains fermented to give you know, the dark, you know, kind of rich flavor. I prefer tamari because, like I said, for my gluten-free friends, then tamari is the better way to go. And also it has kind of a deeper, more like rich taste than soy sauce does. So that's what I prefer to use. Also, it adds some more saltiness to it as well. And let's see, I'm gonna put in a cup of extra firm tofu. So I already mashed this up here. Put that in here. So that's extra firm tofu. If you use the soft tofu, it's not really going to work very well in this context. So you want to get the extra firm if you can find that in the supermarket. We're going to put in got a half a cup of fresh basil. So for me, more basil, the better. So this might be more than a half a cup, but also I have sun-dried tomatoes. I usually use the dried and soaked. I use the dried, sun-dried tomatoes and then soak them myself. I don't usually use the ones in the jar that are sitting in oil. Again, you know, just using less oil. That's my preference here. So put those in. And then,
Do you just soak those tomatoes in water?
yeah, the sun-dried tomatoes, you soak those for about 10 minutes and they sort of reconstitute. All right. And then there's a liquid ingredient here. The recipe calls for ½ a cup of white wine. The reason that I would normally use that is it really gives it a nice extra tangy kind of flavor to it. The alcohol obviously cooks off, but anytime I do presentations in libraries, then there's no alcohol allowed. So you can definitely use apple juice as an alternative to this. That's totally fine. Since it's my kitchen, then I'm just going to leave it up to your imagination. It might be white wine, it might be apple juice. I don't know. I don't even remember. So we've got ½ a cup of apple juice there. All right. And so we're just going to mix this all together. So this is really going to come out. The tofu absorbs some of the liquid. It's really going to be kind of tasty. And it doesn't take a lot to process all of this. It just kind of mixes it all together. And so to this one, we're going to add special ingredient with this one is going to be vital wheat gluten. So if you are vegetarian or vegan, you probably know vital wheat gluten is used to make seitan, which is S-E-I-T-A-N. So it's basically, it is the elastic, it's basically what gives bread its chewiness and its elasticity. So it's basically flour, like wheat flour that's been washed down to where it's just the gluten part of it that's left. So if you are gluten sensitive or if you are allergic to gluten, this is probably your worst nightmare. Vital wheat gluten is just pure gluten. It really helps to bind and hold this sausage, vegan sausage together. This is one thing I really don't know. I've done a lot of research to find if there's like a one-for-one replacement for wheat gluten for this kind of a recipe, and I haven't seen it. If there is, there's different. You can look up online. There's different way to make vegan sausages that don't necessarily use it, but like to get this kind of consistency, I don't know what you can use as an alternative to gluten. So I'll hold this up. You can see it's kind of a pasty mix at this point. But then you add the wheat gluten in, and the wheat gluten really absorbs a lot of the moisture, and it really changes the texture in a way so that once it's cooked, then it really becomes, actually it has a similar texture to meat. So because it's chewier. So I'm going to go ahead and add that in here. Right, and this one I would just mix together by hand. You don't need to use the food processor for this. So as you can see, I'm just kind of mixing it together. And this one you definitely want to let it rest for about 15 minutes first before you start making the sausages with it. So I'll talk about that in a second here. I just want to mix together to a point. Of the wheat gluten mixed through it here. All right. So basically from here, here's the process. So if you're going to make a sausage out of this, this is what I would recommend. So you have this mixture, and you can, like I said, ideally you want to let it rest for about 15 minutes, but you kind of make it into a sausage shape here. And first, you would use the parchment paper. So there's a couple of different ways to do it. You can take parchment paper and put it on the counter, and then, or actually put aluminum foil on the counter and then as a layer, and then put parchment paper over that as a layer. And you're basically going to put the sausage in that and basically just kind of roll it up. You roll it in the paper, and then you twist the ends here. Let me show you how to do that. The other way is you can just use straight tin foil. Some people don't want the food to touch the tin foil directly, so that's why I say you can use the parchment paper if you want, but it's really easier if I can just show you rather than describe it. So let's tilt that down here. So we've got the veggie sausage shape here. All right. So I'm going to put it over and wrap it up like this. Okay. And then you're going to twist the ends. So basically, it's like a Tootsie Roll, just like that, right? So in this recipe, you have about 6, you have enough to make about 6 of these veggie sausages, all right? So once you have it in here, you basically, if you have a steamer or a cook pot or something, put that and steam it for, let's see, check my own recipe. It says cook it for about 45 minutes if it's going to be these small shapes. If you wanted to make them bigger and make like 4 instead, then you would want to cook it a little bit longer, like I'd say at least an hour to let it cook. But basically, with the tin foil, when it cooks, it's helping to keep that shape. So it's going to expand as it cooks, and it's going to get bigger, and the tin foil is going to help it so that it doesn't, become some weird shape. But basically, you cook it for an hour and then let it cool off, and then you'll be able to use that. At that point, you can cook it on a grill, or you can put it in an air fryer. You can cook it in a sauce, but at that point, it is cooked, so it's not like it's going to be raw. However you eat it at that point. I like to be able to put it on the grill so you get the extra smokiness of putting it that way as a sausage. So this one, admittedly, this one is a little bit more involved. It does take longer to cook. It's not easy making vegetables into something that is like a sausage. So it takes some extra work. So that's why I kind of started off with the veggie burgers. It's a little easier to be able to do the whole thing. And, like I said, you have the recipe here as well that you can follow that. And then in the cookbook, it has a number of different recipes and really kind of gets more into the different ways that you can do it. This is just kind of a introduction to that. So like I said, unfortunately, everybody's putting their grills away already, but you can definitely make these in the stove. All these different veggie burgers and veggie sausage recipes, and just put them in the freezer, and then you can use them whenever you want. It's really convenient. And let's see, anybody have any questions at this point? Any comments or anything?
Not in the chat. I have a question.
Sure.
Could you put the sausage in a stew then, or would it just fall apart?
Oh, no, you could definitely do that. It
Really?
won't fall apart.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
the wheat gluten really helps to hold it together as a binder, so it will not fall apart.
Oh, good to know.
Some of the veggie burgers, that would be something more like, if you had a Boca burger or like an Impossible burger or something like that, that has a lot of binders in it, so it really helps to keep it together. So if you can put that on a grill and it's not going to fall apart. If you do one of these like whole food veggie burgers, that's something that, like, I would probably put it on a piece of tin foil because it doesn't have the chemical binders in it to help keep it together in the same way that the processed ones would. So I would say it would be better to cook it on a piece of tin foil or something, just to make sure that it holds together.
Good advice. So Jean says, what about putting the gluten into the burgers to keep them together?
You could do that. Yeah, you could do that. You know, with the burgers, the veggie burger, the sausages are really sort of like something else. You know, the burgers are really meant to be something that, you know, I'll make a batch, put in my freezer, and then I have a whole food, unprocessed thing that I can use for burgers. For the sausages, I don't really make those all the time. It's kind of like a special thing because it has a wheat gluten in it, which definitely is a processed ingredient. And you know, it's not typically something that I would have all the time. Whereas in the summer, you know, these veggie burger recipes, you know, I have a whole bunch of different recipes in the cookbook for different veggie burgers, and I love to make those all the time. You know, my kids eat them all the time. You know, those are super easy. The sausages are really more of a special kind of thing, I guess, because they do take more time and more ingredients to be able to put it together.
Great. Does anybody else have any questions for Colin? You can feel free to unmute yourself during this, you know, Q&A portion, or you can, you know, write it in the chat. Either way. I'm going to actually throw some links in the chat right now. So the things I posted at the beginning, oh, I got to go back and copy them.
Okay.
So it'd be the recipes and the survey, which we hope you take the survey, please. And then links to Colin's pages, etc.
Yep. On my website, colincooksvegan.com, which that'll be there as well. But if you go to the website, then I actually have a Google Calendar on the homepage that shows where all the different classes that I'm going to be teaching, all online, of course, but you know, different libraries, so you can see all the different classes that I do, and you can sign up for those as well. You know, all the classes that I teach for libraries and everything, it's all free, so you don't have to pay anything to be able to join in those. My publisher would love for me to plug my book one more time. Healthy Vegan Cookbook is on Amazon. There's the print version. There's also the ebook version, which is about half of the price of that. And I'm actually saying this publicly for the first time. Going to be my publishing date that I'm really shooting for, my release date for my next book is going to be November 1st. So maybe it'll all come together in the next month, I hope. Well, so that is Smoothies That Taste Like Girl Scout Cookies. And so one of the things in the Healthy Vegan Cookbook I focus a lot on is different smoothie recipes. There's 30 different smoothie recipes in the book. That's what I like to have for breakfast, is to start my day with, you know, fresh fruits and some, you know, some oats and nuts. And but I like to design my recipes so that they are breakfast smoothies that use whole food healthy ingredients that are designed to taste like dessert. So like the smoothie that I like the most is the Black Forest smoothie, which is chocolate and cherry flavors. And you know, it tastes amazing. It's, you know, super healthy. It's like the more you drink of it, the healthier you are. And you know, that's how I love to be able to start my day with something like that. So when I was writing the recipes for that cookbook, the 30 recipes in the smoothies for that, I started to try to make smoothies that taste like Girl Scout cookies, that really kind of mimic the main flavors of different Girl Scout cookies. And so I put a lot of time in once this book was done specifically into that. And so it's actually been something that I've been working on for the last couple of years, and it will hopefully November 1st, I'm shooting for that. It's going to be my release date for that. So that'll be on Amazon as well.
Yeah, we'll keep our eye out as well. We do have one more question from Donna. Why did you become vegan?
Let's see. So 25 years ago, I was vegetarian for a year. Actually, when I went to college, it was mostly vegetarian at the college because it was a music school and there was a lot of international students there. So it's mostly vegetarian. So I was vegetarian for a year, and then really sort of the more that I started reading about it, um, I realized that, as a vegetarian, I would still have milk and I had eggs and dairy and things. And, if you are vegetarian and interested in it from an animal welfare perspective and trying to do less harm to animals, then, I realized that as a vegetarian, even though I wasn't eating meat anymore, then the dairy industry is really kind of hand in hand with the meat industry. Um, Cows have to be pregnant their whole lives giving milk, and, just the way that chickens are raised to be able to have the eggs. I realized that still my lifestyle as a vegetarian, I really felt like it was causing a lot of undue harm and suffering. Whereas as a vegan, I really eliminated quite a bit of that. And also from a health perspective, like I said, the more that I started reading about it, the more like a couple of big books at the time, like Diet for New America and Fit for Life. Those were big 25 years ago. Probably nobody's heard of them now, but both of those were from a vegan perspective. And they said, just try it for a month. Just try being vegan for a month and see if you feel, see how much different you feel. And, if you don't feel any different and you want to go back, fine, whatever, do that. But I tried it and I felt so much better, health-wise. As a vegan, when I became vegetarian, I didn't really notice much of a difference. But when I became vegan, I had so much more energy and I felt so much better all the time. And even then, that was still eating a lot of like processed stuff. So I really cut a lot of that stuff out. And so now I, eat healthier than I used to. But I would say I went vegan, for health reasons, but also for animal welfare reasons as well, and also for environmental reasons. It's great for the environment too.
Thank you. That was wonderful. And thank you for asking that question, Donna. If anybody has anything else, go ahead and say it. Otherwise, go ahead and enjoy your Saturdays. And we really appreciate you coming, Colin. We do have a message. Let me just go. Oh, yeah. Donna says thank you. All right. Well,
thank you, Donna.
Well, thank you guys. And we got another thank you here. So we appreciate you coming, and we hope to see you, next month. You're back when, Colin?
I have a class in November. Yep.
November. You're doing the healthy desserts in November. Yeah. So come back, and we have one in October too. Chef Kim will be here in October. So we look forward to it. And thank you all so very much. And we'll see you next month.
Awesome. Thank you.
Right.
Thanks so much for hosting the class, and thanks to Worcester Public Library.
Absolutely. Anytime.